Today we're changing our front and rear differential fluid as well as our transfer case. Stick around. So it's come time that I need to change both the front and rear diff fluid as well as the transfer case fluid. So I'm going to walk you through today how I'm going to go about doing that, as well as how often you should be doing it, what you need to get in advance of doing it. So with Toyota, they recommend for the differentials that you should be changing the fluid in those around every 30,000 miles. And that's just if you're doing any kind of normal driving. If you're doing a lot of off-roading or towing, they want you to change it as often as 15,000. So I think the last time I had my diff fluid changed, it was around 20,000 miles ago. So I'm a little overdue for that since I've been doing a lot of off-roading with the vehicle. For the transfer case, that can go a little bit longer. For a transfer case, they recommend around every 80 or 90,000 miles if you're just doing regular daily driving or highway miles. But if you're doing a lot of towing, off-roading, engaging your four-wheel drive more often than not, you're going to want to do that around every 40 or 50,000 miles. For the transfer case, I'm going to be using this Redline MTLV fluid. I have 2 quarts of this. That should be enough to get me through the transfer case. And then for the front and rear diffs, I have this Redline 75W85 gear oil as well. So you can find all this on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. Another thing you're going to want to do, and I'll put a link for this, is get yourself a set of crush washers. You'll be wanting to replace all those as you take off the old ones. You're going to need a way to get that fluid into both the differentials and transfer case. So just get yourself a nice little fluid pump. I think this is a Pennzoil. So again, I'll put a link in the description. But with that, let's move over to the back and we'll kind of walk through the different tools that we're going to be using. All right, here's everything we're going to need to complete this project. Starting with the gear oil that I mentioned, I have this MTLV. That's for your transfer case. Need 2 quarts of that. For the front and rear diffs, you're going to need the 75W85 gear oil, and I have 5 quarts of that, so that should be enough for both the front and rear. On Amazon, I'll put a link in there, but this is the set of washers, crush washers that you're going to need to replace the old ones. Obviously, the fluid transfer pump. From a tools perspective, 24mm socket, and then this 10mm hex bit, a torque wrench to make sure you're getting your bolts torqued to the proper spec once you're finished. And that's it. It's going to be a pretty simple project. Let's get started. Okay, so we're under the vehicle now. We're going to start with the transfer case. You always want to take the top plug out first in case for some reason, once you drain all the fluid out, you aren't unable to get that top plug out and you have no way to add fluid back in. So I always start with the top. This is where we're going to need that 24mm socket. I just have it on a breaker bar. So hopefully this shouldn't be too hard. Nope, very easy. So that just cracked right open. All right. As you can see, it comes with a crush washer on there that we'll be replacing. And now we're going to move on to the bottom. Make sure you have something to catch the fluid as it comes out. And that cracked right open too, so we're off to a good start. Make sure to wear some gloves. It's going to get a little messy. There we go. All right, so now we're going to go ahead, while the fluid is draining, we're going to swap out our crush washers. So just going to get these off of here. Put the new crush washers on. I already took this one off. And we're ready to put these back in. All right, we're going to head back under the vehicle. Start by installing the bottom. Right, now we're going to properly torque this. It's 27 foot-pounds of torque, so use your torque wrench and wait for the click. There it is. All right, so we're properly torqued here. So now we can go ahead and start adding our fluid back in the top hole, and then seal this up, and transfer case is complete. So this pump just kind of slides right into the thing. It doesn't really screw on, so you're gonna have to hold it. But just feed that hose inside the transfer case and start going. All right, so I've put in about 1.5 quarts, maybe not quite. So you want to keep pumping until it starts to run out. And now we know we're full. All right, so we can go ahead and close this up and transfer case will be complete. All right, so after putting on the crush washer, go ahead and torque this down again. That is 27 foot-pounds. There we go. Transfer case is complete. I'm going to move on to the front diff. I've moved on to the front diff. Here is your top plug. Here is your drain plug down below. Again, like on the transfer case, we're going to start by trying to loosen this top. These can be a bit tricky from what I've heard. So I'm using a breaker bar, making sure my 10 mil hex bit is nice and fully seated in there. And that thing cracked loose, no problem. Got that thing cracked. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom. All right, they both cracked loose without any issues. All right, that's looking pretty dirty. So this one actually has a magnet on it that collects all kind of any metal shavings. And if you can see in here, there's this copper washer. That needs to come out. We're going to be replacing that as well. So you have a crush washer up top and you have this copper washer down below. So we're going to go ahead, let this drain for a while we get the plugs changed over with the washers. And there you go. All right, so you can see the magnet has picked up quite a bit of metal. Look at all that metal shavings. Just going to clean that off. We've already removed the old copper washer, so we're just going to replace that with a new one. And then for the top plug, take off the old crush washer, put on the new one, make sure everything's nice and clean. So wipe that down. And we are ready to reinstall. Okay, now that we have the copper washer installed, all the fluid is drained out, we are going to go ahead and first reinstall the bottom. All right, now we're going to torque this back down, and this is 48 foot-pounds of torque. Wait, there we go, wait for the click. Now we're going to go ahead and add fluid. Second bottle. All right, so just keep pumping that until it starts to run out, and that means she's full. So that took about 1.75 quarts, maybe a little more than that, almost 2 full quarts to get full. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and put the plug back in for the top with the crush washer. And the torque specs on this are 29 foot-pounds. All right, there we go, properly torqued. That's it for the front. All right, we moved around to the rear, so we're gonna be doing the rear differential now. We're switching back to the 24 millimeter socket for both the top and bottom. We're gonna, again, like I mentioned, start at the top, make sure you can get that loose before you move to the bottom. And again, that thing popped very quickly. And now we're going to move to the bottom. All right, we're gonna move to the bottom. And that came loose very easily as well. So all around we've had success getting these loose. Now when you're putting this plug back in, make sure that you're putting in the magnetic plug on the bottom first. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and torque down this bottom one before we start to add fluid to the top. And it's 38 foot-pounds of torque is what we're looking for. So we're just gonna go ahead and tighten until we hear the click. There we go. Properly torqued. Now we're gonna go ahead and add fluid and we are done. It's a good workout. All right, just so we're getting the bottom here, this third quart, we just started overflowing. So you will need all 5 quarts to do both front and rear diffs, but 5 is definitely enough. And this top is also 38 foot-pounds of torque. There we go. All right, we're just gonna clean this up and the project is complete. Well, that wraps up this project. Between the front and rear differential as well as the transfer case, I think it took a little bit over 30 minutes. So pretty simple. With just some basic tools, you can easily accomplish this maintenance at home. If you like this content, go ahead, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.